The horror of nightmares often lies not in themselves, but in how they connect with reality, repeating in a cycle. Is what you see in dreams the thoughts of a reality? Are the pain and confusion in reality a projection of nightmares? Luke doesn't know either. Every time he begins to sink into the abyss of darkness, accompanied by a bone penetrating pain, he always seems to hear a call that urges him to pull himself together and wake up. Luke.
너야? 어딨어?
That voice seems to have been etched in his soul. Despite being overwhelmed by exhaustion and despair, he struggles to look in the direction of the voice. At the far end of the voice, there is the only light in the abyss. It's as if he has to pass through the licorice flower field under his feet to see the source of the voice again.
만나러 가야 해. 지금도 날 기다리고 있을 거야.
He immediately drags his heavy footsteps step by step into the flower field, hoping to pull himself from this nightmare towards a glimmer of light. But these so-called licorice flowers, can it really guide people to the other shore?
이 길이 아무리 험난해도 반드시 이겨내겠어.
He perseveres, walking and climbing with unwavering determination day by day, year after year. Death follows like a shadow, and the mist of nightmares has never dissipated. Perhaps what separates them has never been death, or that vast and boundless licorice field, but rather the inescapable, endless nightmare that haunts the heart, refusing to fade away. Home. Look, here is your package. On a weekend afternoon after concluding the discussion with your client, you return home with the retrieved packages and begin sorting through them one by one. Most of the packages are items you've purchased online before. However, a single thin envelope catches your attention. The sender is Aaron Yishmer, but the sender's address is Morning Breeze Sanatorium. Aaron sent a letter to Luke from the sanatorium. Just as you are puzzled by this obscure combination, Luke walks out of the bedroom yawning.
아, 어? 내 거야?
Tsk, did you just wake up? There are even marks on your face. You smile and reach out using your fingertips to rub the marks on Luke's cheek from the pillow. He seems a little shy and rubs his sleepy eyes.
어젯밤에 여러 가지 꿈을 연달아 꾸는 바람에 잠을 제대로 못 잤어. 점심에 네가 없어서 낮잠이나 잘까 했거든. 근데 이렇게 오래 잘 줄은 몰랐네.
Dreams? What did you dream about? Tilting his head and thinking for a moment, Luke shakes his head.
뒤죽박죽이라 기억이 잘 안 나. 아마 다 예전에 겪었던 일일걸? 그건 잊지 마고. 아까 내 거 뭐 왔다고 하지 않았어?
Yes, Aaron sent it to you from the sanatorium. Here, take it. After handing the envelope to Luke, his face mirrors the confusion and bewilderment you just felt, and he tears open the envelope with a puzzled frown. Looking at his expression, you think to yourself as expected and shrug your shoulders. Surprise? I didn't expect this either.
이건
Hmm? The sudden change in Luke's mood makes you stop talking. You see the expression on his face turn from shock to serious as he quietly takes out two stage play tickets from the envelope. Stage play tickets. Before you can ask, you hear a helpless sigh.
이 연극 드디어 하는 건가?
What play is ready?
아, 자서전적 연극이야. 국정원 선배가 쓴 각본이거든. 그때 나도 같이 아이디어를 냈었어.
No wonder they sent you tickets because you're part of the production team. But the play is about to be performed soon. You hold onto Luke's face with both hands, carefully watching his eyes and expression. So, why are you pulling that face? Is there another problem with this play?
아니, 없어. 오히려 드디어 세상에 나온다니까 기분이 좋은걸? 여러 이유로 연극 준비 과정이 힘들었거든. 각본 쓰기부터 연습에 기타 작업까지 시간이 얼마나 오래 걸렸는지 몰라. 그리고 이 연극에는
He holds the tickets in one hand and, with the other, catches your fingers that are caressing his cheek, interlocking them firmly. Then he leads you back to sit on the edge of the bed, leaning close as he hands you the tickets.
조연 캐릭터가 둘이 나오는데 감정선이 어떻게 될지 너무 궁금해.
Supporting roles?
음, 어쩔 수 없이 헤어져야 했던 소꿉친구야. 다양한 이유로 남자는 여자를 선뜻 못 만나고 자기 속마음을 드러내는 건 더 두려워하거든. 관객을 안달나게 하는 러브 스토리랄까?
Oh, childhood sweethearts, forced separation, and the man being too afraid to meet the woman. Sudden understanding dawns on you as you catch the keywords, but you don't point it out directly. On the contrary, you lean closer to Luke with a wicked smile and tease him with great interest. Let me guess, in the next part of the story, did the man finally gather the courage to confess to the woman and get engaged?
역시 눈치챘구나.
Of course, it's such a familiar story, just like what we've been through. So, I was actually involved in the preparation work for the play without even knowing it.
사실 진짜 옛날 일이라 티켓을 보고서야 생각났어. 일부러 숨기려던 건 아니야.
I'm not blaming you, but this sense of remote participation is quite fascinating. So, did I also get the plot right?
절반 정도는 맞았다고 할 수 있겠네? 우리가 지나온 시간이 담겨 있긴 한데, 우리가 결국 만나게 된 이야기는 안 나오거든.
Why?
그게
When it comes to this topic, Luke lowers his head and plays with your fingertips, but his gaze shifts elsewhere. The touch of his palm is soft and warm, but his tone is distant, empty, and tinged with sadness. Intuition tells you that what he's going to say next might not be pleasant. You hold back your smile and look at him.
우리가 다시 만나기 전에 각본 짠 선배가 암으로 세상을 떠났어.
What?
췌장암이었어. 이미 치료가 불가능한 단계였어서 빨리 세상을 떠나셨지. 마지막에 임종을 앞두고 아침바람 요양원에 들어가실 때도 나랑 희철이 형이 옆에 있었거든. 딱 그 순간에 갑자기 아이디어가 떠올랐대. 선배랑 친구들의 인생을 담은 연극 각본을 만들어야겠다 싶었던 거지.
So that's why Aaron sent you the tickets from the sanatorium. And also, that's why our story was written into the script.
맞아. 날 취재하러 왔던 것도 사실 재회를 기대하던 거였어. 우리든 각본 속 인물이든 말이야. 하지만 그때의 나는 너를 만날 용기도 결심도 없었지.
Look. You hold Luke's hand tightly. For so long, you've been trying to trace his past, his experience, his pain, all in an effort to feel what he feels and to share your past with him. Because you two are meant to be together forever, you've always believed this is only natural. But when you first touched his past memories, you could also deeply feel the same pain. This has truly been an agonizing and difficult path. Both you and Luke know that you two would not have come this far relying solely on mutual support. And thus, you have always been deeply grateful to everyone who has helped and supported you. I believe that the tickets Aaron sent should be also the script writer's wish before he passed away, right? After all, what he's been looking forward to has eventually come true.
그렇겠지. 비록 내 망설임 때문에 선배가 떠나기 전에 보여주진 못하게 됐지만.
Life is unpredictable, but look, you just said that because you were afraid to meet me, the script writer comes to you to get some inspiration. When exactly did this happen?
그건 말하자면 좀 긴데.
His voice is gentle, ending with a hint of nostalgia and longing. The warm afternoon sunlight and the gentle breeze through the window, infused with his voice, take you back into the memories of the past. Time antiquities. It was when Luke had just returned to Stellis and when he was still busy preparing to open Time's Antiquities.
업무 파일, 업무 파일, 업무 파일. 혁아, 넌 어떻게 된 게 짐이 죄다 업무 파일이야? 올해 성실상이라도 받고 싶은 거야?
성실상이라뇨. 형이 옮긴 게 서류 상자니까 업무 파일들이 들어있죠. 아니면 다른 거라도 기대한 거예요?
아, 또 시작이네. 내가 사생활이나 캐는 사람인 줄 알아? 너 걱정해서 하는 말이잖아. 시간에 쫓겨서 일만 하고 네 인생은 신경도 안 쓸까 봐.
아, 네. 형밖에 없네요. 그럼 일단 그 상자나 테이블 밑에 좀 놔줘요. 이따 끝나면 제가 밥 살게요.
알았어. 내가 할게.
After a fake call from Aaron, Luke shakes his head helplessly and pushes his backbox under the table. He then turns around and lets out a soft sigh. Ever since Luke decided to open Time's Antiquities, Aaron has been offering to help with the move. Luke ultimately agrees to let him help out over the weekend, maybe because there's just so much to tidy up, or perhaps due to how hard it is to turn his enthusiasm down. But of course, Luke knows deep down that beyond these reasons, Aaron is most concerned about his state following the infection.
내가 걱정돼서 그러겠지.
As Luke pushes another cardboard box into the shelf, he narrows his eyes and murmurs to himself. He should have spoken up about it, but if he were to voice it, then there would be no escaping the topics of medication and illnesses. 3 years, a time that confined Luke to nightmares while awake, yet gives him his only hope while dreaming. Although Aaron said that these remaining 3 years could also be a race toward the victory flag, but before comforting others, he couldn't even reconcile with himself. Unexpectedly, Aaron quietly watches his movements and suddenly calls out to him.
혁아, 사실 내가 오늘 여기 온 건 너한테 또 알려줄 게 있어서야.
그게 뭔데요?
너, 네 첫 교관이 누군지 기억해? 양준이라고.
준희 형이요?
Luke subconsciously lets out a sigh at the mention of an unexpected name. He sits up and looks over.
당연하죠. 처음에 국정원 훈련을 거의 다 그 형이 이끌어줬는데요. 형한테 무슨 일 있어요?
그게 췌장암 말기 진단을 받았어. 지난주에 명예퇴직 절차를 밟고 지금 호스피스 센터에 있나 봐.
뭐라고요? 잠깐만요. 6개월 전에 형이 저를 찾아왔을 때는 분명 괜찮았잖아요. 어떻게 그래요?
세상 일은 모르는 거니까. 불행은 항상 그렇게 갑작스럽게 찾아오잖아.
Certainly, as Aaron said, in every minute and every second, different people are facing various degrees of misfortune. And there are always different people standing at the brink of life and death. Luke purses his lips and quietly walks over to the wooden table. He sits on the edge of the table and looks at Aaron.
준이 형은 그럼 지금 어느 호스피스 센터에 있어요?
아침바람 요양원이라고 여기서 그렇게 멀지 않아. 왜? 병문안이라도 가려고?
Luke is about to say yes, but then he thinks of something, causing him to hesitate and look away.
잘 모르겠어요.
Felix Liam is a senior with whom Luke has a good relationship, yet it is precisely because of this that Luke doesn't know how to face him. How should he approach his senior's illness? How should he bring up his own situation? And not to mention, bringing up the discussion of the short future that remains. As if seeing through Luke's thoughts, Aaron walks over to him, gently patting his shoulders.
일주일 전에, 그러니까 네가 아직 수도에 있을 때 난 벌써 동기들이랑 같이 다녀왔어. 예전 교관인데 당연히 시간 날 때 한번 보러 다녀와야지. 그리고 지난번에 동기들이랑 상의해봤는데 너는 교관이었으니까 다른 걸 준비하는 게 좋을 것 같더라.
다른 거요?
같이 밥을 먹는다든가 얘기를 나눠본다든가 하는 거지.
진짜 다른 동기분들이랑 생각해낸 아이디어 맞아요? 아무리 봐도 형이 방금 떠올린 것 같은데.
에이, 그럴 리가. 그때 다들 같은 생각이었어. 어차피 형수님도 바쁘고 준이 형한테 아이가 있는 것도 아니니까. 이런 때야말로 우리 같은 오랜 동료들이 가서 같이 이야기하면서 옛날 이야기하는 게 제일 좋지 않겠어? 근데 너도 알다시피 요즘 다들 바쁘잖아. 넌 아직 가게 문도 안 열었으니까.
말 나온 김에 내일 당장 열어봐요?
뭐? 아니, 그건 좀 너무하잖아.
됐어요. 그냥 놀려봤어요.
Seeing Aaron's shocked and anxious expression, Luke can't help but smile. He stands up straight and stretches, intending to keep the conversation playful with Aaron, but his tone becomes serious as he begins to speak.
무슨 말인지 이해했어요. 형이 오늘 이렇게 와서 이것저것 도와주는 것만 봐도 알겠어요. 다들 제 확실한 대답이 듣고 싶었던 거죠? 걱정 마요. 아직 삶을 포기하진 않았으니까요.
After a pause, Luke looks away again.
전 그냥 생각을 정리할 시간이 좀 더 필요해요.
Be it the past, future, work, life, or the people he'd originally planned to meet up with. Luke's words trail off abruptly. Aaron can understand what he's trying to say, but he doesn't intend to ask further. The worries only flash on his face for a moment. Then he looks at Luke with a satisfied smile.
그럼 너도 동의한 걸로 할게. 지금 요양원으로 출발하자. 내가 길을 알려줄게. 그 다음에 같이 밥 먹으러 가는 걸로. 어때?
지금요?
그럼 나도 집 가서 아이 숙제 봐줘야 돼서 올해는 못 있어. 가자.
Aaron reaches the door in a few steps. Luke hesitates for a moment before following after him. Morning Breeze Sanatorium. To meet with the sanatorium residents, several procedures need to be completed. While Aaron is applying the visitor's pass, Luke wanders alone through the sanatorium's garden.
이따 준이 형을 보면 어떻게 인사할까? 생각해보니까 형이랑 만날 때 어떤 표정을 지어야 할지 모르겠어.
Such a meeting requires careful consideration of many details. And Luke feels even more bewildered because of his own health condition. Before he could think about it more, a light and lively voice from nearby swiftly interrupts Luke's thoughts.
이 목소리는
It is a voice full of life, joy, and passion. As the person comes closer, the voice seems to rise from his valley of memories. It's hard to see what's on his mind right now, but Luke feels a burning desire in his heart. But in an instant, a sudden terror throws him into an icy abyss.
아니
Luke turns around and tries to leave, but a sudden headache nearly takes him out. He quickly takes out his medicine and hurriedly hides behind the bushes, only to see the medicine box slips from his hand and breaks open. The girl nearby seems to have heard something and stops walking. The other girl beside her speaks up then.
왜 그래?
Luke quickly covers his mouth, holding back his panting, his pain, and the nearby uncontrollable longing that is about to shatter his rationality. His medicine is on the ground, just within reach, yet all he needs to do is reach out to ease his pain. But why can't he reach out his hand? Fortunately, the girl doesn't seem to have noticed him. Instead, she leaves with her companion. And this is when Aaron rushes back.
혁아, 네 거 장기 면회증도 만들어 왔어. 이러면 편하게... 혁아, 왜 그래?
Aaron rushes over anxiously and glances at the medicine box on the ground. He immediately understands everything.
발작이야?
괜찮아요.
이래도 괜찮다고? 나 의사야. 나까지 속이려는 거야?
진짜 괜찮아요. 그리고 제가 형을 속였다고 해도 저 자신까지 속일 수 있겠어요?
As he speaks, he can no longer suppress the tone in his voice, whether it be self-mockery, helplessness, or despair. For many years, the figure that could only be seen from afar in dreams has finally emerged from the dense fog of nightmares, standing right in front of him. But separated by the shore of life and death, he still can't break free from those hands that are dragging him into the underworld. Nor can he fly toward everything he truly longs for. Sanatorium Suite. At Aaron's insistence, Luke goes to the infirmary for a quick checkup. After taking the new medicine, they make their way to Felix's place. Before, Luke was hesitating about how he would face the former instructor, even worrying that he might be unable to converse freely. When Luke finally sees Felix, he feels both relieved and worried because his senior's condition isn't as terrible as he had thought.
어쨌든 아직 시간이 좀 있으니까 내 자서전으로 연극을 만들어서 사람들이 내 인생에 대해 조금 더 공감할 수 있도록 하고 싶어. 주요 줄거리 부분은 거의 다 구상이 끝났고 조연은 전적으로 너희한테 맡길게.
알겠어요.
Faced with his senior's enthusiasm, Luke wipes the sweat off his forehead and agrees helplessly. You never know where surprises will pop up. He came to visit a sick senior, but instead, here he is, left alone by Aaron Wieshmer in the living room, busily creating something.
조연의 러브 스토리라. 아니, 내가 무슨 사랑을 안다고.
이 자식, 그게 무슨 소리야. 선배의 예술 활동을 지지해주기 싫은 거야?
아니요, 아니에요. 지금 구상하는 중이에요.
Luke points awkwardly at the open notebook on his knees. Even though only a large bracket covering half the page is drawn, Felix still nods with a smile.
알겠어. 그럼 천천히 생각해. 그 전에 말한 대로 학창 시절의 이야기를 더 많이 해줘. 몇 년 전의 이야기도 괜찮아. 하, 내가 살 날이 조금만 더 있었어도 자서전 각본을 위해서 너희한테 영감을 부탁하지 않아도 됐을 텐데 말이야.
형,
알겠어. 계속 써. 난 가서 따뜻한 차 좀 내올게.
Luke doesn't refuse, nor does he reply. He silently watches Felix's trembling figure gradually disappear into the distance. This senior had been highly respected by many colleagues during his time in office. Remarkably, despite such misfortune, Felix still manages to endure. He even still enthusiastically wanting to create a script based on his own and his friends' experiences.
나도 저런 용기가 있었다면.
But soon he denies this idea himself. After all, he couldn't even muster the courage to face the person he'd been missing for years. Thinking of this, Luke shakes his head, trying to get rid of this thought. He decides to complete his senior's task first. He starts writing on the notebook.
러브 스토리면 결국 남자애랑 여자애가 어릴 때부터 같이 자라서 학교도 같이 다니고 맛있는 것도 먹으러 다니고 하는 게 다 아니야? 같이 탄산음료를 마신다든가 아니면 같이...
Suddenly, he stops writing. He originally intended to make something up. But once he starts writing, what comes out is still his own story.
내 상상력이 너무 빈약한 건가?
Or is this how he interprets love? Luke's palm runs over the pages of the notebook, but his mind is completely empty. He turns his head and stares silently out of the balcony window. Within the range of his vision, a familiar figure walks lightly along the garden path. Since he is far enough away, Luke doesn't hide this time. He grips the railing and leans over to take a look. It has been years since they last met, and of course the girl has changed, but the gentle smile on her lips is still the same as ever. Still the same as in the past, still the appearance he misses the most. Luke's breathing speeds up, and his hands grips the railing so tightly that his veins start to show. Until a cup of warm tea is handed to him, Luke pauses, instinctively loosening his grip.
뭘 그렇게 보고 있어, 멍하니?
Felix returns with tea, following Luke's gaze and immediately spotting the figure.
응? 저분 그 변호사님 아닌가?
형, 저게 누군지 알아요?
잘은 모르는데 대충 들어는 봤어.
대충 어떤 걸요?
Felix smiles with a knowing look in his eyes, but he doesn't say anything for the moment. They keep watching that figure until she disappears at the end of the path. Then Felix holds his cup, limps over to Luke, and sits down beside him, sipping his warm tea and reminiscing.
저분이 여기 계시던 한 어르신의 사건을 맡았거든. 그 어르신은 젊었을 때 아이들을 입양해서 간신히 성인이 될 때까지 키워내신 분이셨어. 이제 겨우 여생을 편하게 누리실 나이가 됐는데 심한 병에 걸려서 상황이 좋지 않다고 들었어. 병원에 입원해서 치료를 받아야 했지. 근데 혼자 이 호스피스 센터에 오신 거야. 한 변호사님한테 자식들과의 입양 관계를 해지해달라고 의뢰했다더라고.
입양 관계를 해지하려던 이유가 뭔데요? 입양된 자녀들이 부양하길 거부한 거예요?
아니, 자식들이 병을 앓게 되면 다들 재산을 다 팔아서라도 양아버지의 병을 치료하려고 했을 거야.
잠깐만요. 입양된 자녀들이 설마 양아버지의 병에 대해 모르는 거예요?
어, 몸 아픈 걸 자식들한테 안 알리신 거야. 자식들에 대한 사랑일 수도 있겠지만 생각해보면 안타깝지.
Felix places the teacup on the table, props up his leg, and hugs his knees, casting a meaningful glance toward Luke.
내 생각에 나을 수 없다고 여겨서 자식들이 밑빠진 독에 돈을 쏟아부을 필요가 없다고 판단하신 것 같아. 차라리 각자의 인생을 잘 살아가는 게 낫다고 생각하신 거지. 입양 관계를 해지한다는 뻔한 아이디어도 아마 자식들이 완전히 자신을 포기하게 만들려는 거겠지. 에휴, 그 어르신 고집이 대단하셔.
뭐, 전 그분을 이해할 수 있을 것 같아요.
Seeing that Felix doesn't intend to interrupt, Luke leans forward with his arms against his knees. He lowers his head slightly and casts his gaze aside, as if commenting on the old man's issue, and also as if discussing people and events right before his eyes.
입양으로 맺어진 가정은 혈연 관계가 아니어도 운명처럼 가족이 된 거잖아요. 그것만으로도 귀중한 인연이라고 생각해요. 가정을 아끼고 지키려는 마음으로 눈앞에 닥친 재난을 혼자 감당하는 거라면 그것 또한 가족을 지키는 방법이라고 생각해요.
그래? 근데 그 변호사님은 그렇게 말씀 안 하시더라고.
Felix shakes his head, seemingly disapproving of what he said.
이 의뢰를 받았을 때 어르신이 입양하신 자녀들이 변호사님한테 진실을 말해달라고 간청했다고 들었어. 변호사님은 의뢰인 입장에서 직접 말할 수 없다고 하고 사적으로 어르신을 설득했지. 뭐라고 했냐면
Felix speaks softly and slowly, hoping his words will reach someone who is struggling with the same dilemma.
가족이니까 피하지 말고 최대한 제대로 된 설명을 해줘야 한다고. 그건 상대방을 평생 무력하게 기다리게만 할 뿐이라고 했어.
His heart begins to hurt again. Luke is certain that it's not because of his illness, but simply because he accidentally hurt her true feelings. Although he is still unsure if it were him, would she still be this determined? Noticing Luke's pale complexion, Felix pats his back and smiles as he used to when coaching him, offering a few words of advice.
내가 말한 이유는 비밀을 숨긴 사람들어 다 털어놓으라는 뜻이 아니야. 다만 이 사람이 다른 사람의 감정을 신경 쓴다면 상대방의 관점에서 한번 생각해보는 게 어떻겠냐는 거지. 상대방은 아무것도 모른 채 재앙의 결과를 받아들이는 것을 바랄까? 아니면 마음의 준비를 하고 함께 극복하기를 바랄까?
그래도 그 친구가 뭘 선택할지 모르겠어요.
Felix doesn't respond. He laughs softly and supports his waist as he stands up.
네가 모르면 나는 더 모르지. 아무튼 영감 떠오르는 거 있으면 꼭 적어놔. 어쩌면 내가 떠나기 전에 너희랑 같이 연극을 완성할 수 있을지도 모르잖아.
Outside the emergency room. Whether due to his senior's expectations or an attempt to reconcile with himself, Luke still completes the inspiration record his senior had wanted as promised. However, when he returns to the sanatorium to find Felix, he is directly taken to the corridor outside the emergency room.
사실 준희 씨가 이틀 전부터 깨어있는 시간이 거의 없었어요. 오늘 아침에도 갑자기 악화돼서.
형수님, 걱정 마세요. 준이 형이라면 버틸 수 있을 거예요.
괜찮아요. 저도 남편 상태가 어떤지 다 알고 있어요.
When Luke and Aaron Richmond arrive, Mistress Liam wipes her tears and explains in a hoarse but calm voice. This is hardly surprising, as Felix Liam's wife, of course she understands her husband's condition best. She's got everything ready, even the things after Felix's death. What she needs to do now is simply to accept what will happen next. But this calm sadness is what really hurts. It's so suffocating and painful.
다만 이 소식을 준희 씨 어머니께 어떻게 전해야 할지 모르겠어요.
Then she turns her head and glances at the middle-aged people crowding around the emergency room. They were his siblings, and they were all full of sorrow. Seeing this, Luke couldn't say a single word he had prepared. The pain of losing a loved one can be understood by others, but it is not easy to offer comfort. That is someone else's family matter, something they have to face themselves.
그러면 형수님, 저랑 혁이가 옆에서 기다리겠습니다. 도움 필요하신 일 있으면 언제든지 불러주세요.
네, 저희가 계속 여기 있을게요.
Mistress Liam thanks the two, then turns toward the emergency room door. The tissue in her hand has been crumpled into a ball that can no longer be compressed. Seeing all of this, Luke and Aaron head to the seats that are further away, both filled with deep emotions.
형수님하고 준이 형 가족들 모습을 보니까 마음이 너무 아파요.
누군 아니겠어.
Aaron interlocks his fingers and rests them against his mouth. His eyes are filled with fatigue.
며칠 동안 이미 수도 없이 생각했어. 만약 현대의학이 좀 더 발달했다면, 내가 좀 더 능력이 있었더라면, 이런 광경을 보지 않아도 됐을 텐데.
Luke looks away from the emergency room and sighs. Subconsciously, he speaks out the doubts in his heart.
만약 준이 형이 처음부터 형수님한테 자기 병에 대해 말하지 않았다면 어땠을까요?
준이 형이 형수님께 말하지 않았다면?
형이 형수님께 말하면 안 됐다는 의미가 아니라
Swallowing hard, Luke straightens up and continues, as if questioning himself.
자기가 아프다는 걸 알았을 때 형수님한테 알리지 않고 혼자 숨어서 임종 치료를 받았다면 어땠을까 하는 생각이 들어서요. 그랬다면 지금
Before he can finish, Aaron pats him on the shoulder in surprise and cut him off mid-sentence.
그걸 말이라고 해? 그럼 다음에 몸져 놓을 사람은 형수님이 되겠지. 너 이 자식 진짜... 됐다. 결혼을 안 해봤으니까 결혼이란 가정에 대한 이해가 부족한 거겠지.
Aaron casually leans back in his seat. He stretches his stiff neck while explaining helplessly.
이렇게 생각해봐. 내가 작은 병에 걸린 걸 아내한테 말을 안 하면 아내는 당장 그날 밤이라도 나한테 헤어지자 할 거야. 만약 큰 병인데 말을 안 하잖아? 그러면 날 끌고 가서 치료받게 할 거야. 다 낫고 나서 이혼하자고 할지도 모르지. 왜냐하면 아내는 날 가족으로 생각하기 때문에 치료하러 데려간 거거든. 이혼을 생각하는 이유는 내가 큰 병이든 작은 병이든 아내한테 말을 안 했기 때문이지. 이건 아내를 가족으로 여기지 않는 거잖아. 이런 일들은 원래 가족과 상의해야 할 것들이야.
가족이랑 상의해야 할 일들이라고요.
Luke sighs bitterly and lowers his head.
형이 말한 부분에 대해서 생각은 안 해본 건 아닌데 도저히 결심이 안 서요.
그래도 생각해봐. 준이 형은 처음부터 형수님께 이 일을 알렸기 때문에 형수님은 모든 걸 받아들일 마음의 준비를 할 수 있었던 거야. 만약 형수님이 계속 상황을 모르다가 며칠 뒤에 갑자기 준이 형의 사망 통지를 받는다면 더 무너지지 않을까?
그렇긴 해요.
Remembering that Felix had once said something similar, Luke falls into contemplation.
게다가 형수님뿐만 아니라 준이 형 본인도 이 순간을 위해 철저히 준비해왔을 거예요.
Luke remembers being really shocked the first day he got here and saw Felix. Similarly, facing the end of his life, Felix shows no signs of sorrow. Instead, he is enthusiastically engaged in his creation. Luke remembers that Felix had once jokingly said he loves creating and all that romantic stuff and naturally wouldn't want to die alone. If possible, he always hoped that someone could see him off on his final journey, whether it be relatives or friends.
근데 전 그렇게 여유로울 수가 없어요.
Just as Luke is thinking, the emergency room door suddenly opens. Luke and Aaron immediately stand up and try to get closer, but stop after hearing the first sob from the people standing by the door.
준이 형,
Luke murmurs, and Aaron angrily slams his fist on the wall. All is settled, following the predetermined direction, yet the weight of it all remains too heavy to bear. But when Luke looks closely, he is surprised to find that Liam's wife, holding her husband's body covered in a white sheet, thanks the medical staff one by one. Her eyes are filled with tears, yet she maintains a polite smile. Only after the medical staff leave does she collapse weakly beside her husband's body. Overwhelmed by the scene, Luke licks his dry lips and tells Aaron that he is going outside. He doesn't hear clearly what Aaron said to him again, only feeling his gloved hand pat his shoulder. After taking a deep breath, Luke walks out of the emergency room's floor. Morning Breeze Sanatorium. Luke finds himself by the bushes where he had previously hidden. Before, when he was here, he was still very determined not to let her see him. But after only a short time, he suddenly starts to feel some regret, wondering why he didn't stand up at that moment.
하지만 내가 정말 그렇게 했다면 어떻게 그녀를 대해야 할까?
Seeing what happened to Felix, Luke can't help but think about the even more desperate scene 3 years later. If that moment really comes, he's always thought about dying alone. At most, a few medical staff would be by his side, recording various data for him. But now, he simply cannot express how much he wishes that she could hold his hand at that moment. No, no way. This is too cruel.
내가 먼저 스스로 떠나놓고 어떻게 내 마지막 순간에 같이 있어달라고 하겠어. 만약 그 친구가 원치 않는다면?
He imagines many scenes in his mind. As his thoughts get increasingly chaotic, he is unable to find where it all started. Yet a few words keep emerging and widening in his mind. I miss her. I miss her so much. This is the longing and desire he has always been afraid to admit.
어쩌면 내가 계속 나 스스로와 화해하지 못했던 걸지도 몰라.
To reconcile with oneself is a mystery that humans can never solve. Because that means accepting the imperfect, broken, and abandoned self. During this process, no matter how calm and composed he appears, the deep pain, cries, struggles, and inner turmoil are understood only by him. But maybe,
만약 내가 그리워하는 것처럼 그 친구도 날 그리워한다면?
Will anyone accompany him through this incredibly tough and dangerous journey? And will anyone pull him out of this endless nightmare?
아직 모든 걸 말할 준비가 되진 않았지만 어쩌면 날 그리워하는 그 친구의 마음을 마주해야겠지.
At least Luke believes she would spare him from another endless nightmare. Times Antiquities. On the seventh day after Felix's passing, Luke's at Times Antiquities is almost ready. However, he never expects that the first person to knock on the door would be Felix's wife.
형수님, 어떻게 오셨어요? 어서 들어오세요. 가서 차 좀 내올게요.
아, 괜찮아요.
Mistress Liam waves her hand, insisting on standing outside the door with a gentle smile on her face.
오늘은 준희 씨가 부탁한 영감 노트를 가지러 온 거예요.
영감 노트? 아,
Luke slaps a hand to his forehead as it suddenly dawns on him. He turns and takes a notebook from a nearby shelf. It is already filled with his writing, but before he can hand it over, something unexpected happens.
형수님, 이거 맞아요?
네, 맞아요.
After taking the notebook, Mistress Liam doesn't open it. Instead, she carefully puts it in her handbag. Then she smiles again and looks at Luke.
준희 씨는 서둘러 떠났지만 각본이 상당 부분 완성됐다고 알고 있어요. 이제 제가 유언대로 대본을 완성해서 가능하다면 무대에서 연출도 해보고 싶어요.
형수님, 그건 쉽지 않아 보이는데요.
네, 어렵겠죠. 그래도 생전 마지막 소원이었으니까.
Mistress Liam doesn't cry, but she can't hide the regret and sadness in her eyes. Thinking of Felix's voice and smile, Luke sighs softly and quickly puts on a smile again.
준이 형이 이전에 저희한테 이 연극에 대해 많은 이야기를 해줘서 사실 저희도 정말 기대하고 있어요. 형수님, 만약 어려운 부분이 있으면 언제든 저나 희철이 형한테 연락 주세요. 동기들 모두 형의 마지막 뜻을 실현하는데 기꺼이 힘을 보탤 거예요.
정말 고마워요.
Mistress Liam's face is overflowing with gratitude as she smiles and bows slightly to Luke.
형수님, 이건
준희 씨의 마지막 순간을 동료분들이 함께 해주셨는데 정말 어떻게 감사 인사를 드려야 할지 모르겠네요. 준희 씨한테서 결국 다들 어떤 일을 하시는지 듣진 못했지만 대충 짐작할 순 있어요. 마찬가지로 꽤 위험한 일을 하고 계신 거겠죠?
그렇긴 하지만
Because of confidentiality, Luke cannot easily discuss his work. But this moment of hesitation is all Mistress Liam needs to confirm her guess.
강혁 씨, 제가 참견하는 것 같지만 사실 이건 준희 씨가 생전에 전하고 싶었던 거예요. 일하면서 아마도 많은 위험한 상황을 겪고 많은 선택에 직면하게 될 거예요. 준희 씨도 이전에 그랬거든요. 하지만 어찌됐든 서로를 진심으로 중요하게 생각하는 사람에게는 최대한 숨기지 말아야 해요. 어쩌면 그들에게 설명을 해주는 편이 나을 거예요.
소중한 사람에게 그 사실을 알리라고요.
Mistress Liam brings it up again, causing him to feel torn and hesitant once more. Luke doesn't recall what he told Mistress Liam, nor does he remember when or how he saw her off after. In just a blink of an eye, he has already left time's antiquities. Central Business District. The CBD is bustling with people coming and going. But at this moment, Luke has no interest in anything around him as he stares at the familiar phone number in his phone. He has thought about his feelings for her and his senior's words over and over. For many mornings, awakened by the pain of his illness, he feels as if she is there beside him. Perhaps he can ask her for help. Luke agrees with Mr. and Mrs. Liam's ideas, and he could not turn away from his own longing.
근데 이 한 걸음을 도대체 어떻게 내디뎌야 할까? 준이 형, 이럴 줄 알았다면 형한테 조언을 더 구할 걸 그랬어요. 적어도 그렇게 했다면 나도 조금은 용기를 냈을 텐데.
Luke? Suddenly, he hears a gentle voice filled with surprise and longing equal to his own. Luke suddenly raises his head, his eyes full of shock. Whether by fate or the blessing of his senior, his prayer is suddenly answered just as he hesitates. Is this a dream? Even if it is a dream, please let it continue. Please, God, please, senior, don't let me wake up at this moment. Luke tries to hold back his tears and puts on a smile. His eyes shine with genuine joy.
너야? 진짜 너 맞아?
He can't hide his joy and rushes forward, speaking the sincere words that have been on his mind for years.
여기서 널 만나게 될 줄은 꿈에도 몰랐어. 그동안 잘 지냈어?
Reunion is so difficult, yet so easy. But regardless, in this moment, Luke just wants to stand in front of her, by her side, and keep accompanying her all the way. There's no need to think further. All he needs now is this moment of peace. Home. I see. I never knew there was such a story before our reunion.
맞아.
With a soft sigh, Luke slowly reclines on the bed, looking nostalgically at the ceiling.
그때 고민이 너무 많았어. 그동안 많은 일이 있어서 네가 날 어떻게 생각할지 몰랐거든. 그래서
I can't believe that you have the nerve to say that.
어?
You turn around and sit on the bed with your legs crossed. You look at Luke with a serious expression. We are family after all. How could I not care about you? We've passed by each other so many times back then, and yet you never came to find me. You have no idea how much I worried about you all those years.
아, 내가 잘못했어. 아니면 그냥 나한테 벌이라도 줘. 다 받아들일게.
This isn't something that can be solved with just one punishment. Despite yelling at him about punishments and lunging forward, you end up giving him a hug. Dummy. Luke is only surprised for a moment, then he gently wraps his arms around your back. Then he tightly pulls you closer into his embrace. You've been together for so long, but when the old topic is brought up again, you both once undoubtedly feel the heart-wrenching longing and worry from the past again. His warm breath rushes over your head, making you feel a warmth in your eyes.
미안해. 시간이 오래 걸렸지만 정말 미안해.
No need to apologize, Luke. I can actually understand your thoughts. Raising your head slightly, you look up at him. He looks sad, but you have both come so far that there's no need to show such sadness anymore. Felix, his wife, and Aaron are right. Even if we hadn't gotten together, I would still be the closest member of your family, right? It is just as those friends of his has said. If you hadn't seen Luke for years, only to suddenly learn of his death from others one day in the future, you can't begin to imagine just how devastating that would be.
그러니까 이 간단한 걸 제대로 깨닫는데 정말 오래 걸렸지.
Luke gently combs your hair with his fingertips while staring into your eyes. In each other's eyes, you can see how much you cherish each other, as well as the unspoken pain.
사실 처음에 나는 정말로 내 남은 생의 모든 시간과 노력을 네가 사는 이 땅을 지키는 데 쓰고 싶었어. 그리고 네 삶도 지켜주고 싶었고. 안 만났으면 슬픔도 없었을 거야. 내 생명이 끝날 때 혼자 죽음을 마주했을 테니까. 나는 숨어서 너를 지켜주는 수호자가 되고 네 삶에서 잠시 스쳐 지나가는 한순간이 됐겠지. 사실 우리가 다시 만난 뒤로도 그 생각을 한참 동안 갖고 있었어. 그러다 희철이 형한테 들켜서 혼나기도 했었고.
Luke,
그래도 결국엔 이렇게 만났잖아?
Luke helps you sit up and gently holds your hands. When he looks at you again, his eyes are filled with tenderness and warmth.
설령 우리가 사귀지 않았더라도 가족으로서 너한테 해명해야 한다는 걸 깨달았거든. 다행히 모든 일들이 결국 가장 아름다운 방향으로 흘러갔어. 우리가 사귀고 약혼하면서 나도 마침내 너와 함께 더 먼 미래를 볼 수 있게 됐어.
Yeah, I'm glad you finally figured it out. You reach out to smooth Luke's hair, still messy from sleep, and then recall the moment when you pinned him to the bed, which makes you chuckle. Actually, just made me recall something. No wonder you were left speechless when I told you before that I hadn't changed my phone number back then. You were studying my number minutes before that. Say, aren't you a classic example of someone who's too dedicated to his duty to take care of his family?
그것도 청산하려면 시간이 많이 걸리겠네?
Well, it's not that serious, but I did say there would be a punishment. How about this? As punishment, you need to take me to watch the play together. When we get back, tell me about the other experiences you didn't get a chance to share.
좋아, 물론이지. 그럼 지금 출발할까? 연극을 보기 전에 맛있는 것부터 먹으러 가자.
Yay! After exchanging a smile, you two start preparing together to head out. Afternoon sunlight streams gently into the house, warmly embracing the space where you and Luke will share countless years to come. Some people have said that reconciling with oneself is the eternal challenge of humankind. But in the solution to this challenge, companionship and trust are always indispensable. Fortunately, Luke's challenge has now been overcome. And he will no longer be troubled by this challenge. Because he has ultimately flown over the licorice field that symbolized life and death. And finally arrived at freedom and vast green fields of his own.